Hi, I'm Dina, and today I'm going to show you how to make slide decks. Some basic tools that you want to look at when designing your slides presentation are inserting text boxes, inserting images, inserting shapes, or any form of lines in terms of arrows and curves or polyline or scribbles. These options really do make a huge difference in how your information looks. You're going to notice that at the layout, you have multiple options that are ready as preset in a grid like as we've discussed earlier. So you can select one of those, or you can just create your own. As you start thinking of your presentation design, you might want to change the background color. And if you want to do that on every single slide in your presentation, you can simply just click on Slide, and then go to Edit Master, and then make sure you selected the master slide, and right-click, and go to Change Background Color, and then select whatever color you want, and then click on Done. From now on, any new slide that you're going to be inserting will carry the same exact color. All right, so let's go back to our original slide. So here, it's already predetermined that you would want to add a title here and a subtitle here because automatically this is your first slide of your presentation. But if you don't want to do this, you can simply just click on them and then delete. You can start playing with your shapes. So you can simply, let's choose this rectangle. So I want to pay attention to the size and the dimensions of my shape, and then that there is an outline. To change the color of your outline, which is black in that matter, just click on the shape and then just go to the outline, and you can either change the color of it or simply make it transparent. And then if you want to change the color of the shape, you just simply fill in the shape. And to fill it in, let's say we're going to choose washed off blue. And after you've done so, you have one of two options. Either double click on the shape to start writing the title, then you can select the text and change it into whatever font you want. And we can just select a basic sans serif font. You can obviously enlarge it, or you can just double click and type it in and click enter. And since we've been talking about symmetry, you want to make sure that it's center aligned. So this is your first option. You can also go in and change the color of your font to make it kind of simple and smooth and stand out. One more thing to do with your shape is to drop shadow. And I find this to be a very important tool because if you want to give it more attention as an element on your slide more than anything else, dropping shadow is also a great way. You can click on your shape and right click and go down to Format Options. You're going to notice drop shadow over here. If you unclick it, you're going to notice over here on the edges of the shape there isn't a shadow, but then when we click on it, it gets a little bit darker. And what you can do is that you can add the distance just a bit, so automatically it acts as if it's a little embossed. All right? You can also work with the transparency if you want it too dark or if you want it very faint. It depends on your goal and what you're going for. But the basic format that is already provided by slides, it works well. If you want to rotate multiple shapes together and you want to make sure that the tilt or rotation angle is happening exactly the same, you can just have everything ready beforehand and just select both elements, and then you can go ahead and rotate it just a bit. This way you know for a fact that anything that is going to be on top of one another will have the same exact angle of rotation, and then you can just act very comfortably to change the font size, the color, or the type. Now we're going to create our slides in our presentation. To add a slide, you just need to click on the plus sign. But before I do so, I'm just going to give you an idea that the plus sign already kind of gives you formats of grid-like looking presentation slides that you can select from. But as agreed, we're working from a blank canvas to customize it according to our preference. I usually like to highlight the title of my slide. And I do so sometimes by adding a shape. This is where I'm going to be writing the title of my slide on top. Now, anything that is in the gray area, just know it's going to be cut off while presenting, or if you're going to be exporting this document into a PDF. When you select your shape, just make sure it follows the same style as the one that you have started with. And you're going to notice that in my first slide, I have a rectangle with round edges. So I kind of want to keep this theme going, so I'm not changing too many elements about the presentation that it gets distracting. I also want to keep the same colors going on so it has this harmonical feel. I'm just going to click on my rectangle and I'm going to color it. Mind you, feel free to change the color if you want to break off from this first slide. It's totally up to you, but remember, not too many colors. And I'm just going to remove the outline of my rectangle. So I have one of two options. Either I can leave this here if I want to edit it at any point in any additional slides I add, or I can fix it to the theme. So to fix it to the theme, you can pretty much just click on it and then right click, and you're going to notice that in the bottom here it says add to the theme. You want to add to the theme in the blank document since we are creating information on our presentation from blank slides. If I come back here and I did a plus, automatically anything that I've created and added to my theme is already fixed, so you don't have to go through the nightmare of copy pasting everything. But to do this, if this is something that you want to, I'm just going to go click undo, where this is now a shape. It's not fixed to my theme. What happens with Google that is good, and presentations in general, is that when you copy paste something like an element from one slide onto another, it falls in the same exact place. I don't have to move it. But think of the endless amount of time that you're saving by fixing an element to the theme. Okay, so since we fixed our first element, which is this rectangle here, I want to add a text box on top of it that's going to be representing the title of every single slide that I'm going to have. So I can just fix it almost same size, and I'm going to write slide number 1. I'm just going to highlight it, and let's say I can give it a 24 point. I can go for a little bit more, right? And I would left align it. I would not center it, because if I centered this in the middle, it's going to be kind of thrown off within the whole canvas. So I would just kind of keep it on the left-hand side and just make sure it's in the middle. So anything that you're building in terms of frames, just make sure to center it at the end. And again, you click on the text box, you go at the alignment, and here it means you want to center the text in the middle of the box that you have created. You're going to notice if the box, if I enlarge it, the text box, it's automatically going to be in the middle. So always create your frame just along the outline of the shape that you've created. And then you can always go in and just edit your font. I'm going to add a text box now following a grid. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to insert my text box. I can already see that Google Slides automatically creates these lines to me kind of as guidance. So I'm just going to create my text box here, and I already have text that I'm going to add. So I just copy pasted this, and you're going to notice that I started off with font 16 or above, and I actually selected 20 because I felt that the amount of information that I needed to add onto my presentation was this amount, and I don't need more than that. And let's say I want to add an image on the right. So I'm just going to go onto image, either upload an image from your computer or just search the web. And since this is Google Slides, we have Google search engines for Google Images embedded to have us add information from it. I'm going to choose this photosynthesis image, and I'm going to insert it. But before I do so, you're going to notice that this option allows us actually to select more than one image at a time. So if I want to present maybe 2 images or 3, remember, not too many, or if you even want to select a few, and then accordingly, you can choose which one fits best, and then you can delete the rest. I here have 4 selected. I'm going to insert them, and they're going to pop up on my slide. So we can go ahead and minimize the size. But very important key information here, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the size of my image. But before I do so, you have to always make sure that you're clicking on Shift and dragging, because this way your images are being scaled down with fixed proportions. Whereas if I click over here and I just start using bounding box cursors that are going to reshape my image, you're going to notice that it's already starting to look weird and off. Stretching images is not something you ever want to do. So always, again, click on any of the corners, click Shift and hold, then drag and release. All right, and automatically everything is being scaled in terms of resizing the image. So let's say I don't like this one. This is small, and if I had to kind of center it to form a grid, it's coming on the edge on the right hand side. I don't want it. All right, now maybe I like this one, but I want the one that has information on top. So in that case, you're just going to go ahead and click, Shift, hold, drag, and release. And then you can just simply put it on the right hand side. Okay, as we've done with our first slide here, a very good technique is to drop shadow. The dropping the shadow kind of elevates the image and it allows it to pop up a little bit. And you can kind of see if you feel like the distance is not enough and it's not popping up enough, you can just drag it just a little bit to the right. But you never want to do something that is so crazy that just throws off the purpose of this option. So we're just going to go back to here. Okay, so automatically you're going to notice that it's neat. We're highlighting the importance of photosynthesis here, looking at every single information. My eyes are going on everything very carefully. The text here is readable. There isn't this battle between the different elements. So I'm going to give you one more option in terms of inserting images. So I'm just going to duplicate this slide because remember, this is not embedded in my theme. And I just want to edit something with the images. Let's say I only want to take part of this image and I want to mask it to make sure that it either follows the theme that I have on my slide or simply to focus on a certain piece of information on my image. So you're going to click on the image and you're automatically going to notice that the crop sign pops up. The arrow is going to ask you to mask image, and this is what you want to click on. So masking the image allows you to create an outline that has one of those shapes. So I personally am going to use the round rectangle just to kind of follow up with the same theme that I have up here. And it automatically creates more connection between all the other elements on my slide. Let's duplicate this slide again. And let's see other options that we can do here. Maybe I just want to focus on certain parts. Maybe I just don't want to have it in a form of a circle. This is an oval shape. So you guys know now the endless amounts of opportunities that this little tool avails for us. Let's add one more blank slide and see options of how we can edit our images. So let's say you're going to insert an image from the web. Let's choose this tomato here. You're going to notice that sometimes we're a little bit restricted with backgrounds in our images because it throws off information, or maybe we need to add more than one image in terms of like if this were to be a fruit collection for students. What you can do here before inserting the image from Google Images, you can automatically have this image saved on your desktop, but then use another website called removebg.com. This is such a good tool to help you remove any backgrounds for images and insert them as if they're vectors. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to upload an image here. You're going to automatically notice that it removed this background for me. And then I'm just going to click on download, and it's going to download my tomato. Then I'm going to come back to my presentation, and then I'm going to insert the image, but this time from my computer, and already converted into PNG. And there you go. My tomato does not have a background. And think of the endless opportunities that you can have with this tool as well if you want to create like a collection of fruits, as I've already indicated. So I've already done this with another image, but let's say the image that you want to use now does not have a fixed white background. What you can do is add another image, and this is the one that I chose. And it automatically shifted it into an image without this wood-like background. And I'm just going to download it, and then I'm going to go back and upload it into my Google Slides presentation. So I'm just going to click on Insert, Image, Upload from Computer. I'm going to go to my downloads, and there you go. So you can see how neat everything looks like. And again, you have all the same options of rotating. If you want to fit it in a certain way, you can actually build images using this tool. Another thing that you can do if you want to make a collection of things, you're going to notice that this tomato, the redder tomato, is in the background. You can right click on it and always work on the arrangement in terms of order and just send backwards or send to the front. Let's just say send to the back, and it already just kind of gives hierarchy to which image you want to showcase first. And then just like any other image, what you can do, you can format the options and actually drop shadow as well. And you're going to notice that kind of became beveled a little bit from the tomato in the background. So again, more options to play around with images. And then same thing with text boxes. You can keep your information neatly and nicely organized. Another option is to insert an image that has text on it. What you can do is add an image that represents a page of the textbook that you're assigning to your students. So I'm just going to click on a couple of images, and I'm just going to insert them. And you're going to notice that here I'm using images from a grade 4 textbook, which is Wonders McGraw-Hill. And let's say I'm going to start with my first image, which is the title page of the book. All right. So you're going to notice automatically that if you just kept your image on the slide, you have these side spots that are kind of acting as negative space. And at the same time, you might feel that it's not really aligned neatly and you want to keep the theme. So you have a couple of options that you can work with here. So you can simply duplicate your slide just to make sure that you have the same image on both slides. And then you can just go ahead and crop this image. So I'm just going to crop it since I need just page number 1. I'm going to click on enter and I'm going to drag it to the right. If you've noticed that the theme that you've created for your presentation does not fully work with the content that you've been adding onto it, you can always go back to editing the theme using very few steps. And to do so, we're just going to click on slide, and then we're going to click on edit master. And you're going to notice where we added this rectangle to add on it titles for every single slide. If you notice that it's a little bit too long, it's a little bit too thick, you can just pretty much bring it back and just minimize its size just to fit nicely. The other option you can do is that you can just change the background color. Let's say we want to make it gray, for example, right? And then you're going to click on done. And you're going to notice that it automatically changed the color for all my other slides. And any new addition to this presentation is going to carry the new format. So you have so many options to work around without having to copy paste the elements in every single slide, because this can take so much time out of your preparation time. So I'm going to click on the new slide and I'm going to do the same exact thing because I want to make sure that this is what's visible for the students. I'm just going to go ahead and crop it. I'm going to click on enter and it already fits very nicely on my slide. Okay, in that matter, if you can tell that the gray and the white, there's this fine line and it doesn't really work well, as we said before, you have one of two options. Either drop the shadow to make this image stand out a bit, or change the background color to a color that makes it more comfortable for the students. And actually, come to think about it, let's do it now and check. Because you're going to notice this is a trial and error thing. You just keep on working until you notice what fits best. I'm going to change background color. Let's say I want to just create it and make it white. And let's see how it looks. Personally, I feel that the information now is more readable and it's easier for me to retain information. Okay? So Again, this is an option that is ongoing with you. Just keep on building your presentation in form of layers and just build your presentation collectively. If I want to add information here on the left-hand side in form of a question to ask a question to my students during a Zoom session and have them answer. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this text box so it has information on it. Just going to paste it over here. And as I told you, anything that is copy pasted falls in the same exact location. So as the students start reading this off during our online classroom, sometimes you want to stop and ask some questions. So to make the students focus on certain paragraphs, or if you want to chunk down the information for them, let's say for differentiation purposes, what you can do is the following. You can simply just ask them the question. So I'm just going to say question. I'm going to say, what is the main idea in paragraph? Okay. And I just asked my question. I'm just going to bring your attention to one thing. You do not have to create this in bulletin points. You can change the format of the question in terms of the font size, but always make sure that between your elements, there's this fine space that does not kind of have information blending in. Also, you can align it with the title to make it more symmetrical. Okay. So if I said, what is the main idea in paragraph 1? Let's say I wanted my students to read the whole page first. And then after I wrote the question, what is the main idea in paragraph 1, I want them to focus closely on the text in paragraph 1 only. What you can do is the following. You can just copy paste the same exact page. And then you can crop this image only to focus on paragraph number 1. In this matter, it's point number 1. Click enter. All right. And what you can do now is that you can enlarge the text. You're going to notice here that the text is too close to the outline of the paragraph, so I'm just going to bring it up just a tiny bit. I'm going to click on enter. So the good thing about this is sometimes students really retain information based on visual cues and their visual memory. But if I were to leave this paragraph on top of this image, it's too many busy elements. So what you're going to do, you're going to click on the background image, and then you're going to click on Format Options. And what you're going to do, you're going to click on Adjustments this time. And you're going to increase the transparency so this image is not in focus anymore, right? But you're going to keep it there in the background because one way or another, it can assist the student to remember where we got it from. All right? Another thing that you can do is to start using lines or arrows to just kind of have the student remember where you got this paragraph from. And you can just simply create it like this. With arrows, I personally like to choose colors that are a little bit more vibrant just to get their students' attention of where the information is coming from. And if you feel that this paragraph needs to be beveled a little bit more, go ahead in the drop shadow and increase the distance just a little bit more to make sure that it's what is in focus. All right. Now, looking at my slide, I can tell that there is a lot of empty space down there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on the text box and center it with the paragraph. If you want to present visual cues for your students to know when it's time for them to participate by asking questions or responding, inputting visual cues in the form of icons I find really helpful. And to do so, you just go and search on the web, let's say a hand emoji. And this one here, for example, if we insert it, sometimes the images that are being inserted do not have backgrounds, and luckily this one does not have a background. And I would just keep it here. When I drop this icon in the bottom left corner, it automatically informs my student that someone should be raising their hands up to volunteer to provide an answer. After hearing the students' responses, what you can do is already have the answer selected or perhaps highlight any information in the paragraph that informs the student of what the answer is. And to do so, I'm just going to duplicate this slide. And this time around, I'm going to switch the question into answer because I want to inform the students of what the answer is, and perhaps I can just choose a red color as a form of the answer. And you already know what the answer is. And the answer to this question, popular pumpkin seeds, right? But instead of just typing up the answer, what you can do for students who sometimes do not really focus on information in text, sometimes you can highlight the answer by creating a frame around it. And make sure it's transparent. And again, create a vibrant color. Maybe you can increase the thickness of the outline, so you've automatically informed your student of where the answer is. So using this strategy and building up to it slide by slide, the students start to kind of look at text differently. Another thing that you can do if you want your students to volunteer to read, you can just simply duplicate this slide and erase all of that, and you can always edit the background image here. So we're just going to bring it back to its original color, right? So now it's very obvious and the information is very clear. And let's say I want to create another icon that represents that the student should be reading. I can say microphone. And again, you can choose any kind of imagery that you can switch into an icon. I personally choose this one, and I'm just going to insert it. Now you can tell that this has a background. If I really wanted to remove the background, I'm going to go to removebg.com. Or if I do not want to do this, and I luckily have a white background, so it automatically looks as if it's a vector, I'm just going to leave it. And then you can inform the students here of a think aloud that you want them to carry out as somebody else is reading. And you can just say, think of main idea in every paragraph. Search for details to support the main idea. And then you can just simply edit it the way you want. Here, since I'm giving instructions and points, I want to add the information in a form of bulletin points. I'm just going to spread it out. Just bring back the color to black. So now my students are going to be thinking about this. Again, you can create a visual cue so that when the student sees it, they automatically know what to do. And you can do this by adding a cloud, and this kind of represents a think aloud. And in the think aloud, you can insert your information. So I'm just going to cut it from here, delete this text box, insert the information here. And obviously you can see that we need to fix it to make sure that it fits nicely. And if it doesn't fit nicely in terms of the font being too small or too big, you can then edit it accordingly to see what works best. There you go. This way the students know when they see this that this is a think aloud. And you can create icons again or visual cues that are going to inform the students of the thinking process that you want them to go through. You can drop shadow here as well. Right click, format options, and drop shadow. And again, you can also change the color of this. One more thing that we can do when we add pages from textbooks on slides is to start assessing certain skills. So for example here, I know already that in the textbook that I use at school, the vocabulary words are usually highlighted. But let's assume you want to start testing students' background knowledge. You can automatically do the same exact strategy of cropping the image and focusing on the paragraph that has the highlighted word in it, and to test how far students utilize context clues if you know that the clues that would help the student find out the meaning of the word is in that paragraph. So you crop the image and then you bring it up, and as much as you can, make sure the images that you are adding are high resolution so when you scale them out and make them larger, the image is not pixelated. So let's say you want to cover the word advancements here so that the students can replace it with words from their own word bank. So what you want to do is just add a rectangle or something that covers up the word advancement using the same background color, which is white. So I'm just going to go ahead and create this rectangle and just click and drag to cover up the word advancements. And you're going to notice that it automatically has an outline, so we want to remove that and we want to fill the bucket in with white color. Second thing, to inform the students that this is something that they need to do, just insert a line. And to do so, you can click also on Shift, hold, drag, and release to make sure it's a straight line, bring it down a bit, and perhaps a vibrant color to bring their attention that something needs to be done here. And then just fix it appropriately. And then you can add your questions. So again, remember we said that those two icons could either represent reading or volunteering to answer. So according to whatever icons you've created and your kids know about, or your students or whoever you're giving your presentation to, you can unify the icons that you're inserting. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to add this question, just again, just making sure that the theme is the same. And I'm going to say, fill in the blanks using a word that fits best. And then you can take it from there in terms of doing the same process that we've done earlier, just copy pasting this, highlighting information that could be utilized as clues that would help us understand what is a good word that fits here. And then when you uncover it, you can then compare and contrast between the words that the students have come up with versus the original vocabulary word. Another thing that we can work on here is to insert a video. And to insert a video, Google Slides already has YouTube integrated. So let's say I want to include a video that either I know of and I know it's content-based, or I just want to simply input a timer. You're going to notice that there are an endless amount of timers here. If I want the students to do an activity, let's say 5-minute timer, and we're going to select, I need a basic timer that does not act as a distraction. So if you find something that fits well, go ahead and click on it. But if your options are limited, there is another option that we can do to make sure that it's not that distracting. All videos that you insert off of YouTube have sound. So what you want to do is to make sure to turn the sound off by muting the audio. Also, what Google Slides allows you to do is to select only a certain part of the video to play. And you can do so by just adding the starting time and the ending time of the video. But since this is a timer, I'm not going to change anything about that. Now you have similar formatting options as the ones with the images in terms of how you want your video to look like. You can click, you can drag, you can also scale it out, but please be careful not to stretch it out. You have to click on Shift and the corners, click and drag. You can resize it. There are plenty of options here, and you can drop shadow if needed. One final thing that I want to bring your attention to is working with outlines, because I've noticed that some people like to add outlines that are very thick. And let's see how outlines sometimes can really change the weight of elements on your slides, which might act as a distractor, especially when it comes to selecting extremely vibrant colors like red. If you have multiple elements here, besides just this one paragraph, very thick outline might be a little bit too distracting. Unless you want to add an outline, for example, on this slide here, because you feel that an outline, a very thin outline, might help us by popping up the information a little bit more and giving it more value so that the students can focus on it more. Thank you for watching my tutorial, and I hope you found it helpful. Please feel free to email me whenever you want.